Hi, I'm James Ramsey, Group Product Manager here at GitLab for the create stage of the DevOps lifecycle. And this is the Gitaly 13.1 kickoff call. In the next release, GitLab 13.1, which will be released on June 22, we're working towards strong consistency for Gitaly clusters. And to summarize what Gitaly clusters are, let's take a look at the documentation. Today, by default, if you install GitLab, you'll have one Gitaly node, and that is running on the same server and where your Git repository data is stored. But for large GitLab instances, it's common to split that out onto a separate dedicated server. And in fact, a lot of customers want to have multiple servers standing by so that if one of them goes down, another one can pick up the read and write requests, improving fault tolerance. So this would be part of what would be a high availability configuration. So what we've been working on with Gitaly clusters over the past number of releases is implementing this new proxy router and the ability to have multiple Gitaly nodes, all with replicas of the data. So the problem that we're trying to solve in 13.1 is around consistency. So in the implementation we've built in 13.0 and in previous releases, the data is still sent to one node, and then after the write is received and you receive a success and Git says, great, I've pushed the data. After that all happens, then GitLab goes away and replicates the data from the primary node to all the secondary nodes. This means that in that window of replication, which might be 5, 20, 30 seconds, if an outage occurs, that data will be lost because the data is only on one server. And so strong consistency will improve fault tolerance by meaning that whenever a write is successfully received and you receive the success signal, either the git push succeeds when you do it from the command line, or you create a branch and GitLab says, yes, you've created the branch, everything's good. Strong consistency would mean that that's actually been written to multiple locations before you receive that positive feedback. So in order to do this, and this is the epic that we're using to track this work, we need to make a number of changes. We evaluated a bunch of different approaches, and in 13.0, which is the release that's just about to ship, we've been implementing a proof of concept using pre-receive hooks. So a pre-receive hook gets fired on the server whenever you push data. You might use this to, I don't know, make sure that you don't push secrets, or that, I don't know, there's lots of things you can use a pre-receive hook for. But we're also building a prototype that would implement a transaction where the Gitaly node talks to this prefect server and the tracking database and says, oh, I'm conducting a transaction. I want to make sure that multiple nodes have a copy of this data. Only if we all agree on what the outcome is, will I accept the write. So we've been building a proof of concept of that. But that only covers Git push operations, and we want to cover all kinds of operations. We want to cover the other kinds of operations that come through the Git interface, the GitLab interface, where we directly change data in Git through lower level commands that don't trigger a pre-receive hook. So what we're going to do in 13.1 is implement special dedicated hooks inside of Git to manage ref update transactions and allow us to get coverage of all write operations. So that's really exciting. The other part is, if we go back to the diagram, at the moment, we're only sending data to the primary Gitaly node, not the secondary replicas. And so if we're going to have agreement between all of the servers over what the repository should look like, they all need to have a copy of the data. And so what we're going to implement is proxying of the write operations. We're going to proxy the data to all the Gitaly nodes so that they can then compare it with each other and work out if they agree. So that's the second part of what we'll be working on in this next release. And finally, critical to all this is monitoring. We want to take what we build, put it onto gitlab.com for a small selection of repositories that we're testing with, and verify that this works as we expect. Verify the transactions succeed, look at how long they take compared to a normal write operation, so we understand the latency. And also do a bunch of other monitoring. This is an incomplete list of the things that we'll be monitoring. We'll be looking to add more as we go through the development process so that we can understand exactly how it's behaving in production. So this is our MVC of strong consistency that we'll be working on in 13.1. Thanks for tuning in to this kickoff call, and feel free to ask questions on the issues and give your feedback. And hopefully I'll see you in the next Gitaly 13.2 kickoff call in a month. Have a great week.